Welcome to New Light Living Podcast. And I welcome my beautiful guest, the one and only Susan Burrell. Welcome, Susan.
Thanks for having me, Ulrika. I'm excited to see what we talk about today.
Yes, we are going to, we're going to talk about going from worthless to worthy. How's that for a topic?
Okay, I can feel it already. My whole energy system's going,
So before we dive into today's juicy topic, I would love to share with our listeners and viewers here who you are and what do you do, Susan? Tell us.
Well, I'm like a jack of all trades in a sense. I am an intuitive healer and a spiritual guide, and by that I mean I've spent like the last 25 years teaching spiritual principle, supporting others in awakening their consciousness and raising their vibration. I know that sounds kind of woo-woo stuff, but really aligning, helping others to really align with the energetic that I call the divine spirit source energy. And yeah, and that's what I do. So I work with clients, and every session that I do with a client, I'm sure like you, is intuitively led, so when people say, well, what do you do in a session? It's not like going to see a psychiatrist or psychologist or something, and you can say, well, you will get this and this and this, because it's according to the individual's desire to change, to transform, transmute. And then it's also according to what they're willing to look at, because oftentimes we're not willing to look at our stuff.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. And especially since we're honing in on the topic going from worthless to worthy today, why do you think that, or what would you say, why is this becoming more and more relevant in the times that we're living in? What's your perspective on that?
That's a really good question. So off the top of my head, Ulrika, I think it's because going from worthless to worthy is often a female journey, a woman's journey. Men are going through it too. And the reason why, I think, is because the divine feminine has now become the forerunner, if you will, for probably the next few centuries. And the divine masculine is now willing to take a back seat so the divine feminine can come in and clear and transmute and not take any guff. And so that means moving from where we have been wounded, and I'm talking to the women, thinking we are not valuable, or we're only valuable according to our price, according to maybe years ago, centuries ago, if a woman owned land there and was educated, there was often some man around, or several, a group that would disenfranchise her and take her land. And often they did that by saying, especially an intelligent woman, a business savvy woman in, I don't know, the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, would be called a witch. So that they could just make it some kind of mystical, cosmic woo stuff to disenfranchise and get her property. And often, in that time frame, women were supposed to be submissive. They were not supposed to have a job. They were not supposed to. And so then generationally, women in general have been taught that they're worthless and to be quiet, just, like children, be seen and not heard, and stand behind your man and support the man in being successful and be the little housewifey do. and women in the 20th century, well, women have always been awake and aware. We just were trying to find the avenue of that expression. And so last century, the 1900s and now the 20s, we're seeing an influx of women being courageous enough to stand up and say, I count, right? I am worth it. And I am worth it. And so what my journey has been, and it's so funny that this is the topic we're talking about today, because my spiritual practice this morning was about looking at the level of humiliation I still hold within me that's causing distress and dis-ease through my body. So my personal journey from worthless to worthy is evidently ongoing. I get to have great pockets of opportunity where everything's just kind of calm and settled. But, there isn't like an end game about this. In any lifetime, there isn't an end game. It's an ongoing inner excavation to really settle into that oneness that we all are. And that's the truth of our being, is that we're all connected and all one. But first we have to connect with ourselves, right? If we've been gaslighted by a narcissist, I'm raising my hand, then we don't know what we don't know. And so like my practice today was about digging deep to the root cause of that humiliation so I can release it. And it goes back into my 20s. And so forgiving my 20 something and my 30 something and my 40 something, and I'm now 60 something. So I had to forgive the 50 something because the level of humiliation goes back that far and it's deep. For me, I would imagine there's many women that are carrying some level of humiliation, especially if they've been involved with a narcissist, because narcissists are really good at teaching you that you are absolutely fundamentally broken and worthless. And that's not the truth of anybody. It's just not.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that rich perspective, and also some highlights from your own journey. Susan, from your own journey, what would you say would be your most transformational insight, if we take into perspective what we just talked about?
Wow. Okay. Well, there's been a lot. There's been many, and I'm every time that insight would show up, I would tell myself, okay, pay attention to this and listen to your intuition and follow the wisdom of your heart and your gut instincts, or whatever people want to call it, because I know that those inspirational points are source communicating with us, with me. Well, just because this was my topic this morning, my inner topic, a really huge awakening was when I finally realized my marriage of 28 years was over. And that was like a 3 a.m. call, wake up, it's done. And I had spent like probably 30 years of it, because it did last, well, it was 28 years, but then with divorce, it was over 30. I spent so much time ignoring that wake up, it's not right for you. Wake up, it's killing you. Wake up. And I ignored it. So that was an amazing time. And then, and it's so funny how spirit works, because at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, okay, it's done. But I didn't know what I was going to do, right? What was I going to do? And so the next day I had scheduled a massage with an amazing healer, and she had Deepak Chopra affirmations playing. And the affirmation was, I trust the unknown, I relinquish the known, and I live in infinite possibility. And so for an hour, that was my my face down. And she's literally pummeling that into my body. I trust the unknown. I was like, oh, I don't trust the unknown. And then the following day, I had the courage and strength to file for divorce. And then the divorce was another awakening for me, if you will, because, and this is the going from worthless to worthy, because when I filed for divorce, I realized I didn't love myself. I didn't know myself. I didn't respect myself, even though I was doing this awesome work, right? And really being a spiritual leader and a light leader, I couldn't see my truth because it had been so booby trapped. And so that moving from worthless to worthy began with me really coming to grips with myself, recognizing I didn't love myself or respect myself. And so my mantra during that time was, I love myself, I am loving, and I love myself more than I ever have in my life. I love myself more than I ever have in my life. And after months of doing that, walking it, tapping it in, EFT, everybody tapping it in, and tons of other excavation. I woke up one day going, oh, I like myself. In fact, I love myself. And then I was looking at my work and I'm like, I'm really good at what I do. I never had told myself that. I was always thinking I had to learn something more. And we always need to keep learning, but I wasn't really solid with me. And all of a sudden there it was. I was okay with me. I was worth it. I was worthy.
It sounds like it was that inner loop of self-validation that really was closing for you when it was like, I love myself. That's so beautiful. And I guess that's what we all are working on, to kind of close that loop, to be able to acknowledge ourselves that way. And let me ask you this, in your life, externally, like how your life shows up now, given that journey that you've gone through, what is the best thing that has come out of your journey so far of self-transformation, going from worthless to worthy yourself?
The best thing is I have a beautiful, amazing life now because of learning to love myself and respect myself. I have a new spouse who loves and respects me. And was, never before for me. It was never part of my fairy tale, loving and somebody that loved and respected me. And so that just has created an amazing, so from the inside out, right, Ulrika, from the inside out, my self-love drew to me, attracted to me, a man who loves and respects himself and therefore can love and respect me. And when we came together, he said, I'm not here to make you happy. I said, I know I'm not here to make you happy, but together we're happy. I hope people understand what that means, because part of feeling worthless is you're always looking for somebody to fill that empty space within. And, and that's where people get into addictions and shopping too much, or, or too many relationships that just never happen. So once you can learn to love yourself, then you become that magnet for a vibrational match of someone that can not only compliment you, but take the journey together. And both of us are doing our inner work. I don't tell him what to do with his inner work, and he doesn't tell me unless I ask for, something because I'm stuck. But yeah, so that's been the best thing. And then my external life, we live in a beautiful home. We have beautiful art. We travel the world. It's all the things I always wanted, but didn't have because I didn't think I was worth it.
Yeah. That's such a shift, right? If you reflect back to then and now, so that it is possible, guys. It's possible. Now, I'm curious, why do you think that? Because we can all feel this shift, right? From centuries of divine masculine dominance, if you will, and the wave that comes in now with divine feminine, and all the opportunity that brings to live a different life. What's your perspective on why now, and why do you think people are drawn to the self-discovery and self-validation of feeling their own worthiness?
So I think what's exciting about being alive right now is that many, 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 many people that have incarnated during this time frame are here on purpose to awaken even more, and then support each other in that consciousness that uplifts, not denigrates. And that's part of the divine feminine. It's all about, we're in this together. It's a very circular energy, just like your background, very circular, very connected, even though you may not be aware of who's on the other side of the planet. And the divine feminine is amping that energy up. So we're all shifting our frequency up, and to a higher, when I say up, I mean a higher consciousness. Not a low level consciousness is the end, what we're seeing with the ending of the patriarchal dominance of the divine masculine. I don't think ever intended for this low level consciousness, but many people abused it and then have taken advantage of it. And that's why we're seeing all the different violence things happening and divisions happening. And because that belief system about the patriarchy, which is basically died, is still holding on to some people's consciousness. And part of that is about being right. I'm right and you're wrong. And the divine feminine doesn't go, I'm right, you're wrong. The divine feminine says, we're going to look at the whole picture. We're going to include everyone, and we're going to be connected in a circular vibration. So when people are in that old dregs of patriarchy, I'm right, you're wrong, everything's black and white, and it's a very divisive thought form that's created our outer world right now. And so the divine feminine has come in to basically purify, and we're seeing a lot of environmental things happening that are about purifying the consciousness. And the more people hang on to what was, they stop growing, right? Their consciousness atrophies, atrophies, becomes,
stagnant, kind of.
Stagnant,
yeah.
Thank you. And the thing about it is that the infinite source energy is a circular, it circulates, it's dynamic, it's always moving. And our little human pea brains want to be in control of everything, and we don't want all that. But in order for change and transmutation and higher consciousness to happen, we have to be willing to allow the circulation of spirit through us, to become that conduit of that divine energy, because it's really for the highest good of not only the individual, but for humanity. And that's what we're witnessing now. Lots of light leaders are here on the planet, like you and I, to guide and support others that are going, maybe this pandemic wasn't such a bad thing. Maybe, wow, I've kind of learned about myself. Maybe I don't want to go back to that old job. Maybe I want to be an artist, or maybe I want to travel the world. But in order to get there, we have got to circulate. That means going outside and seeing people again, everybody, by the way. But circulate our joy, circulating our love, circulating the peace that we are. And these are all things that are inside us.
Yes.
All the time. They're not outside, you don't get to say, I want peace of mind. You just have to be it.
Yes.
right?
Yes. It's a complete shift in a way from, I sense the same thing, that it really is completely asking ourselves those questions that we've been seeking all the answers on outside of us, right? And that is, we're uncomfortable with that to begin with, but that's part of the transformation. What do I want, right?
Right.
So
And the truth is, Eureka, if you will allow me, that those answers you're seeking, everyone, already reside within you. There is no thing outside of you that's going to inform you more, or no authority outside of you that's going to give you permission or tell you what to do. It is time, and that's why the divine feminine is here, to listen to ourselves, to follow our intuition for the highest good of all. That's the caveat, for the highest good of all, not because you think low level thoughts and then, well, I believe that, so I should follow that. No. What is the truth of your being, and listen with your heart.
yes, so much wisdom right there. Now, if we take this all back to your own journey, Susan, what are some of the practices and or resources that have been very helpful for you on your journey from worthless to worthy?
Well, definitely meditation. But what I find is I need to journal first. So, and those are the classes I teach. You journal to get the garbage out of your head, get the muck out, because the mind gets so busy with the stories and the who did me wrong and why stuff. So I journal first now, and I used to journal after meditation, but I journal first to kind of clear, and then I can listen to my heart and see what it is I want to meditate on, and also clear from the inside out as well with it through energy work that I do. And then I use affirmations still, but I bring them into my heart, everybody. You got to bring it into your heart. You just don't do it in your head. It doesn't work that way. You got to bring it into your heart. And the current affirmation I'm working right now is, I live in love, I act from love, and I thrive in beautiful experiences in my life.
Ooh, so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's beautiful. What a wonderful affirmation. And everyone, just pick it up, try it, and really bring it into your heart, as Susan said. And which means that, what does these words mean to you, right? That's what we often forget to translate. What does this mean for me, and what works for me? So that's great advice, Susan. Now, if somebody who is listening or viewing this episode and is totally like, yeah, I like, this is me, I want to start, I want to go deeper with this journey, what are your top 3 tips on where to start with all of this? If somebody is just like, yeah, I want to get going with my own journey from less to worthy.
okay, so top 3 tips. First of all, be willing to face yourself. Be willing to look. Now, I'm not talking like do mirror work, which is very helpful, but I mean go within and face those little bugaboos. I have a friend who's a coach who calls them gremlins, but face those little dark spots within yourself that you've been afraid to look at, because once you begin to face your fears, then you can release them, or you can find that's old stuff that doesn't have any meaning. So facing yourself, being with yourself, being kind and loving, right? And then journaling and meditation is important. And then the third thing, and this is my personal thing, is I don't like doing stuff by myself. I have never liked, like I got to go to a yoga class. Doing the online yoga is not happening for me. So I would encourage you to find a coach, a spiritual teacher, an intuitive healer that you resonate with, and then be willing to invest in yourself, which means you're going to have to pay them to support you in your transformation. We're not here to do your work for you, believe me. I don't want to be anybody's Sherpa, but we are here to support. And I personally have a couple of healers that are my mentors, and they support me. So it's, again, goes back to that connection in the divine feminine, that circle, that we're all here to hold each other's hand, to connect, to support, and to love each other. So that's what I would recommend.
Beautiful. Yes. So this is also such an important point with the connection part. And what would you recommend if somebody now has been home for the last year and a half? Like, what would you give as a word on their way to kind of go out and network? Where would you start?
Oh, that's heavy, because so many people are still carrying fear, and so many people are carrying even bigger grief over the last year and a half, and not just because of COVID, but because of the violence we've been seeing, and the divisiveness in America, at least. So I think fundamentally, it's about love. It's about love. And so as you go out in the world, prepare yourself to be love, right? To energetically be love and send love, and not get caught in the old paradigm that happened before of, whatever it is, road rage or in a hurry, but be love, and then watch what happens, because love attracts love, and love heals individuals of their fear and their grief and their anger and their resentment. And I know, because that's been my personal journey. And when I go out in the world now, I was walking my dog yesterday, didn't have my mask on. I go for a walk. I don't put a mask on. And California is almost clear of all that anyway. And there were many people out with their dogs and no mask. And all of a sudden, because you could see everybody's whole face, people wanted to talk, not just walk, because I can't, 6 feet distance, but wanted to talk. And it was from a kind, loving place. So that's what I would say is be love, and prepare yourself when you leave your home to be that, and then watch what happens.
Such powerful advice. Thank you for that. So Susan, where can we connect with you? Where can we find you?
Oh, there's so many places. Wow. And I have all this beautiful energy right now, Ulrika. Thank you. So SusanBurrell.com is my website. On the website, you can find my book, Live an Empowered Life, a 30-Day Journey. And you can buy one, get one for free to give to a friend, or start a book study, like I'm talking connection. I also have guided meditations on Insight Timer, and you can access those through the little icon there, or go to my YouTube channel. And then I have my own podcast called Empowering Chats with Susan Burrell. So there's all sorts of ways. And if you want to have a session with me, I will do a free 30-minute session. So you can go to contact and 30-minute session, and book it with me, and see if you want to work with me, if it's a good fit.
Yes, everybody go and check out Susan's resources and contact her. She is such a powerhouse. So before we wrap up this episode today, I'd love to ask you something personal, a little nugget of wisdom that you want to send off with to all of the listeners and viewers today. And that is, Susan, what do you live by?
Well, I used to answer that by integrity. Now I answer it is I live by love. I live in love. I act from love, and I thrive in my life.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening and viewing today. Thank you, Susan. It was lovely, wonderful to have you on the podcast today. And New Light Living will be back very soon with another episode.